Greetings, friends and future friends. Today's video is on the Korg Pa5x. Now, a few weeks ago, I got a comment. Someone asked me, hey, John, how do you use the multiple outs of the Korg Pa5x with your DAW system? How can you do that so you can separate and record 6 tracks at one time? So what I'm going to do today is show you how I do that, how you can run the multiple outs of the audio of the Korg Pa5x into the multiple ins of a sound card, and then bring it into your DAW system. And that'll allow you to record 6 tracks at one time. So let's get in the studio and see how those things work. So we have the Korg Pa5x all started up. And before we can start recording in our DAW system, we have to make sure a couple of things are set the right way. And that is, where are these audio outs going to? So what we do is we hit settings on the keyboard, brings us up to this menu. Then we're going to hit audio video, brings us up to this menu. Then we're going to go down here to player 1, tap on player 1, and then you're going to see all the different tracks where they're going, the bass, the drums, and all that. So what we have is the bass is going out 3 and 4, the drums are going out 1 and 2, the percussion is going out 1 and 2. And if we tap on that, you can see this is all the selections. You can make, actually, if you wanted the drums to go out to just channel 1 and the bass just to go out to channel 2, you could do that also. But here's all your selections, left and right, out 1 plus 2, out 3 plus 4, out 1, out 2, out 3, and out 4. So these are all the different selections you can have. And what we're going to do is leave that on 1 and 2. And also, if you wanted to go to player 2, you can also use player 2 the same way. I have the bass going out 3 and 4, the drums going out 1 and 2, and the percussion going out 1 and 2. And if we exit out of that, so what that means is when I'm mixing these drums, let's go back here to style. When I'm mixing these drums, there's a couple of things you need to think about. Is these drums are now going out to 3 and 4. So if you're not hearing any sound, and this has happened to me several times, is that when you're playing something and, hey, wait a minute, I didn't record the drums or I can't hear the drums. Well, the drums are going out 3 and 4. And if my processing, because I run the drums to a separate mixer, if they're going somewhere and they're shut off, then I'm not going to hear the drums. The same with the bass. Now, I'll show you a little trick I do with the bass, but remember that the bass, the drums, and the percussion are going out a different channel as is all the other accompaniments going out left and right. So that's something you need to remember and take care of before we even get started on going out with multiple outs of audio. So again, before we get into what we're going to do with these audio outs coming out of the keyboard, we need to learn how to select them. And to recap, we hit settings on the keyboard, hit audio video, then we go over to player 1, and now we can select where we want that signal. The bass is going to go out to audios 3 and 4, the drums is going out to 1 and 2, and percussion 1 and 2, and same with player 2. And that's very important. You need to have that set up before we can even start thinking about what we're going to do with that audio signal coming out of the Pa5x. So the first part of the chain of my audio coming out of my Korg Pa5x is this. I run the left and right into a BBE 882i. I love this thing. Now, you're not going to hear it as good with the way I'm recording this tutorial, but in the studio, you can really hear the difference. When you engage this BBE, you can hear the highs get clearer and the bottom is more pronounced. It's really great. So the first thing I do is I run the left and right out of the Korg Pa5x right in here into the 882. And if you watch these lights when I play, you can see that they're lit up. So once the signal comes out of the 882, then it comes into my mixer right here. And you can see 5x left, 5x right. Then the left and right are on these 2 channels. Then what I do is I have the subs. Sub 1 goes to my sound card. So to record, all I have to do is push sub 1 down. Now I'm sending the signal of the Pa5x to sub 1, which then goes to the sound card. And in that way I can record this. Now the bass is a little different.
what I do is I come out 3 and 4 out of the Korg Pa5x. 3 comes into this mixer so I can monitor what it sounds like, and 4 actually goes into my sound card. And then that way, when it goes into the sound card, I'm actually recording the bass separately. But this is where the signal's going so far. So as we have it, left and right comes out of the keyboard into the BBE, then into this mixer, then into the sound card, which is in the DAW system. Now, what I do with the drums is a little different. You saw how I ran the left and right into the BBE 882, then into the mixer, and from the mixer into my sound card. Well, here with the drums, I do it a little different. What I do is I run the drums. In other words, the 5X drums comes in here. This is actually a 8-channel mixer with 2 extra channels that are stereo. So theoretically, you have 12 channels here. And I have my electric drum set. You can see 2 snare tracks, a kick drum, toms left and right, cymbals left and right. And this mixes all my drums. I like to keep all my drums in the same process. And what I do is I bring the 5X drums stereo, which would be 1 and 2, right into this mixer. And of course, the KN drums, this is actually the Nautilus, which I can bring the Nautilus left and right drums right in here. Then once they're in here, there's a lot of things I can do with them here. I could actually add effects if I wanted to. But then I send them out to another effect. So I like to process my drums the same way I do all my drums. I think the drums are very important to the mix. So processing them the same way, I want to keep that continuity of all my drums. So as you saw, we ran all my drums and my electric drum set into that mixer, and we ran the 5X drums and the Nautilus drums into that mixer. Then from that mixer, we come into this box right here, down here. And what that is a TC Electronics Finalizer. Now, most of the time, this device is used for mixing down music. You kind of put that at the very end. You're finalizing your music. But I really like it. It brings out the drums really nice. And if we play the drums, you can see it works. And then there's all kinds of different adjustments. Not only where the BBE only has a low-end contour and a high-end, where the Finalizer has all kinds of different areas that you can enhance and, create a better, enhance the sound. And one other great thing about this thing is it has a sampler, digital sampler built into it. And what that allows me to do is bring in an audio signal into the TC Electronic, and then I can output digitally right out of this box, digitally right into my sound card. So in other words, this thing does 2 things. It enhances the drums, makes them sound better, and then it digitizes them, brings it into a digital signal, which then I can bring into the sound card, and then we can create a separate track of recording the drums, which I'll show you when we get into the DAW system. So being I do a lot of my music production myself, I don't have to record a lot of multiple ends at one time. So this little sound card right here has really been great. It's a Scarlett 8i6 from Focusrite. And basically what I have here is the digital ends are the drums. 3 and 4 are the accompaniments coming out of left and right of the keyboards. And then 6, coming into 6, is actually the bass guitar. So what I can do with this sound card is I can record all 6 tracks at one time. Actually, I'm recording 5 tracks. The 1 track for the bass, and then 2 tracks for the accompaniments, and 2 tracks for the drums. And I'll show you how that works in the DAW system. Also on my mixer, I want to show you down here 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, this signal right here is coming directly out of the sound card. So tracks 1 and 2 can come here. Tracks 3 and 4 can come here. And where that's handy is if we want to record a vocal track, and I have somebody in the booth and I want to record a vocal track, what we can do is we can have the music on 3 and 4 playing, and I can give them a little bit, and then the track that they want to hear when we play back their vocals, I can put that on 1 and 2, and they can hear that when we play it back. So this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 of the sound card coming into my mixer. Okay, in this diagram, I want to show you how I'm routing the audio signals out of my Korg Pa5x and bringing it into my DAW system. So you can see I have them labeled 4, 3, 2, 1 RL outs, and that's left and right outs 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So the first thing we're going to look at is the left and right outs of the Korg Pa5x, which would be all my accompaniments. That goes left and right out of the Pa5x into the BBE 882, left and right in, then left and right out of the BBE into my mixer in channels 1 and 2. Now, the mixer is set up that anything I bring into this mixer and I send out to sub 1 and sub 2 will go directly to the sound card, which will be recorded at tracks 3 and 4 on the sound card. And there, once that signal's in the sound card, we can connect it with a USB connection to my DAW system. So to recap, left and right out of the Pa5x into the BBE, into the mixer, then out of sub 1 and sub 2 of the mixer, into my sound card, and then into my DAW system. Now the next thing I want to show you is the drum setup and how I route the drum signal. And basically I'm doing the same thing. And you remember, we program drums and percussion to come out of channels 1 and 2 of the audio of the Pa5x. So we come out of 1 and 2 of the Pa5x and we go into the mixer on channels 11 and 12. Now this mixer handles all the drums in my studio. My 16-piece drum set comes in here, my drums from the Nautilus, and of course the drums from the Pa5x come into this mixer. Then what I do is I take the left and right outs of this mixer and bring it into my TC Electronics Finalizer, which then that's a left and right audio in of the Finalizer. Then the Finalizer does two things. One, it enhances that drum sound, really makes it sound great. And also it digitizes those sounds. So it creates a SPDIF outs. So then coming out of the SPDIF digital out of the TC Electronics Finalizer, it comes into the SPDIF ins of my sound card. So digitally out of the Finalizer into my sound card. So 1 and 2 out of the Pa5x, into the mixer, into the Finalizer, into my sound card, and then into my DAW system. And this way I get some really great drum sounds out of that. Now the next thing I want to show you is how I record the bass. And you remember we selected the bass to go out of channels 3 and 4. Now I do this a little differently, but it works really great and I can record the bass at the same time. So the first thing we do is I take channel 3 and I run it back into my mixer. This way I can monitor that bass sound. Anything that I have on that bass track, I can monitor and listen to. I can send it to my sound booth or whatever I want. I can send that signal to anywhere in my studio and monitor it. Then on tracks 4, the fourth audio out of the Pa5x, I send that right directly into my sound card in channel 6 in. And that way I can record that bass directly into the sound card. Now, with doing that, anything I put on that track, whether it's a guitar sounding bass or a synth sounding bass, it will come out of that 4 and go right directly into my sound card. And that way I get a really great recording. So, to sum this all up, the first thing we do is, boom, we get a USB connection from the sound card to the DAW system. Then we do left and rights coming out of the Pa5x to the BBE, the mixer, the sound card, into my DAW system. Then the next thing we do is we come out of the drums. 1 and 2 out of the drums, into the mixer, into the Finalizer, into the sound card, and into my DAW system. And this way, with that Finalizer, I get a really great drum sound, and then it's being digitally recorded in my sound card. And there you have it. The last thing is the bass. Track 3, channel 3 coming out of the Pa5x is my monitor channel, and track 4 is directly recording that bass signal into my DAW system, and this is the complete layout that I have in my studio for recording sounds out of my Pa5x. So now we're in a DAW system and we have the software that I'm using, Cakewalk Sonar, all started up. And the first thing we want to do is go over here and check the inputs. When you go over here and you look, you have your input and your output is right here. So right there's your input and right there's your output. Then we go here and we're going to go over and we're going to focus right USB ASI, and you can see right down here where it's saying SPDIF1, SPDIF2. That's the digital ends of my sound card. So we know we have that selected. Looks good. We'll back this back up so we can see everything. Then we come down here to the next channel, and there's our in right here and our out. We go to our in, go to the USB ASIO, and what we have is input 6 is selected. So in other words, channel 6, what's ever coming into channel 6 on that sound card is going to be recorded here. And we already know that channel 6 is where the bass is coming in. So that's good. Let's back that up. And then we go down here to the final track that we're going to record. Right here, we can see input. There's the output. And we go to here, click on that, go back up here, and you can see input 3 and input 4 in stereo. This is the channel, the track right here with the input 3 and input 4 is where our left and right is coming out of the keyboard. So the left and right comes out of the keyboard, goes into the BE, then into the mixer, and from the mixer we can bring it into the sound card. And that's where you have right there. So what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. We're going to go over here to our keyboard, and we're just going to play something real quick. And I got it on variation 3. And we're going to trigger all the software to record. And let's see what we have here. We got started up, and looks good. Everything is flashing. So we'll go over and get ready to hit the hotkeys and get ready to start. And 1, 2, 3. But we made a mistake already, and I'm glad I did. That will undo all that. The first thing we have to do, and I said this many times and I failed to do it, is we have to look up here. What's our time signature? What's the tempo? We're looking at 135, and we need to change this to 135. 135. Okay. Now, right up here, now our time signature is matching the time signature we have on that style. So now let's go back to the beginning and hit record and get started here. And what do we have? We're not going to record the whole song. We just want to show you what we have. What we have done now is we've actually recorded the drums in through the sound card, in through the finalizer, in here. These are the drums. And if we solo them and we play it back, and on solo that, and we'll solo the bass. And let's unsolo that, and we'll solo the accompaniments. And now let's just go, let's see where we looks good at right here. I think 8. We'll go to 8, and what we'll do is we'll unsolo this. We'll select this. Do a split, 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 and now what we'll do is we'll delete this, delete this, delete this, click on this, we'll make this into a loop and see what it sounds like. And sounds really great. It's looping really nice because we have the time signature up here matching the time signature of our style, and everything is ready to go. So now we don't need the Korg Pa5x anymore. We actually have 5 tracks in here. We have 2 stereo tracks of drums and 2 stereo tracks of accompaniments and 1 mono track of bass. And then if we solo this, let's get rid of these records so we don't mess anything up. And we go over here and solo the drums. And let's play them. And let's go add some reverb. Turn the reverb on. Hear the reverb. Sounds cool. So let's solo the bass. And you know what? I like always adding a little effects. Let's add some. Add some chorusing. Now this is the depth. We're gonna panner. I'm gonna take it off. I just want the chorus. And if we get rid of it, we can actually bypass it and turn it off. But I like that. Bypass. I like that little bit of chorus in there. Let's see what it sounds like with the drums. Sounds great. Add a little bit of EQ to it. And there you go. We now have 6 tracks we can work with. Then later on, now I have this screen magnified so you can see it a little better. You know, usually I don't work with it this large. But then I can come down here, and if I want to add my vocal track, because the vocal track I think is on 5. Yeah, input 5 of the mixer is to vocal track. So I could actually run my vocals right in here, add vocals. Or what I can do is, because the accompaniment is input 3 and 4, which is sub 1 and 2 on the mixer, I can actually bring in some guitars. I could actually double this track and bring in a lead guitar. And then that way I could add lead guitar. But this is what I'm doing. And I wanted you to understand how that works, because I know some of you don't get how you can bring audio into your DAW system. Now, granted, there's other ways of doing this. You could actually take and export out all these different accompaniments as different files and bring them in. But this is the way to do it, for me, anyhow. Again, you got to have a good sound card. You got to have a good everything. Now, on the sound card sampling rates, I'm just doing 48, because most of the stuff I'm doing is on YouTube, and it's 48. So I record everything in 48. I know if you wanted to get into some high quality recording, you might do a 96, but all my sample rates are 48. And if I go check, I can go over here and look at it. If we go to our sound card, you know, we look up here and input presets, clear, restore, edits, device. Yeah, see, we're retained 48. Sample rate, we have it at 48 hertz. this sound card can go up to 96 and all that. But, if you, my opinion on all these high sample rates, they're great. They're good if you're producing music that's going to be played somewhere at a higher rate. But for what we do on YouTube, now I will clarify this, and I will say that yes, these higher sample rates are better, but then you have to resample it down to get it 48 on YouTube. So that's why I like to stay at 48. And I always have heard this many times, crap in, crap out. So what you want to do is make sure you have good cables. Make sure you have good connections, and make sure everything is quiet, because then you can record everything and it's clean. The 48 will sound good if you're putting something good into it. So that's how I do it. I select the tracks coming out of the Korg Pa5x where I want them to go. Then I come and I put them into the designated tracks into my sound card. Then when I'm in my software, I find that and I say, okay, my drums are coming in digitally. So that means I got to come down here and select this. And when I do, now my drums are coming in. So what I can basically do is record the drums, the bass, and any accompaniment on that Korg Pa5x in these 5 tracks. And then you've seen I can add choruses. I can add all kinds of different things, effects, reverbs, all this stuff, because now this is a stem file in my software and I can do just about anything I want with it.
So I hope this video showed you how you can take advantage of the multiple audio outs that the Korg Pa5x offers. That way you can record multiple tracks at one time. That's a real cool option that the Korg Pa5x has. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You help us grow the channel. That way we can bring you more cool stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.